Living as a woman requires a constant effort to make space for oneself. Whether you're a migrant or a foreigner, or when you're a migrant or foreigner in a new country, gender can layer onto other factors that can make you behind typically more privileged groups. Think of Taylor Swift's The Man. Sometimes, even if you run as fast as you can't help but think if you'd get to where you were going quicker if you were a man instead. For Pinay Powerhouse, a collective of Filipina lawyers in the United States, gender is no hurdle in making space in the American legal industry. They call themselves a powerhouse, and rightfully so. Hello, I'm Michelle Abad, and welcome to At Home sa Abroad, Rappler's one-stop show for everything related to the Filipino diaspora. Here we discuss topics important to Filipinos all over the world, from concerns and welfare of overseas Filipino workers, to celebrating Pinoy success stories, to reconnecting with cultural roots, at iba pa. For today's episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with Pinay Powerhouse, a women's collective focused on empowering Filipina lawyers, future attorneys, and legal professionals as leaders in the law. We have with us Christine Start, Pinay Powerhouse co-founder, and Kelsey Jandoc, one of the collective's junior members. Christine, KJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, it's so great to see you guys. So maybe just to start the ball rolling, and I just want to go back to how Pinay Powerhouse was formed. So maybe Christine, since you were one of the founders, can you tell us about how Pinay Powerhouse was formed?
Sure. I'm the visionary founder of the Pinay Powerhouse. In 2016, I was president of the Filipino Bar Association of Northern California. And during that time, I remember it pretty vividly. It was our board planning meeting. And I was going through a lot of different things in my life at that time. My identity as a lawyer was a big one. And I just remember saying it out loud when we were planning what types of programming we were going to do. It was kind of like verbal throw up. I just said, hey, y'all, I want to do a West Coast Pinay Powerhouse conference for Filipina lawyers and law students. That's what I remembered just kind of saying. Like as we were speaking, I really felt this sense of we need to be empowered. We need to center ourselves. And we need a place and a space for us to just get intimate, to talk about issues that we're facing, to bond and celebrate ourselves as sisters, as Pinays. And I thought it would be great to do it in the form of a conference. And so that was the start of the Pinay Powerhouse.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me about the thought process of that moment where you had that thought to yourself? Why did you think there was a need for Filipino women in the American legal industry to come together?
Yeah, at that point, I was pretty early on in my career. I had been a lawyer at that point for about 5 or 6 years. And so I was, entering that later stage. And I think for me, I felt very alone. So you have this sense of wanting to belong and not feeling very good enough. I felt that in law school too, being one of the only Filipinas at my law school. And so there's this sense of, it's very common, that inferior feeling where what is that called? Imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you don't know anything. And then you feel alone on top of that because you're in a white male-dominated industry. And at that time, I was kind of discovering what was important to me and figuring out my identity as a lawyer, how I wanted to litigate in the courtroom. I was a public defender at the time. And I just felt like I would go to conferences, women's conferences, and I would again be the only Pinay in the room or one of few women of color. And I was like, there needs to be a place like this for us where we can just get rid of any of those thoughts, because like we know we're not the only ones, and um, just center ourselves and feel comfortable being in our own skin and not have to explain ourselves or even think about being good enough, and I just really wanted to create like an intimate space for us to just authentically be who we were, and do it as a collective, and see that we're not alone. And the point was really, I mean, I was in a leadership position, I was president. The point was to help us be leaders in our own right, because everyone is a leader in their own right, and then take, what we've learned at that conference, the educational part, the personal and professional development parts and aspects, and then bring it back home to our loved ones, to our communities, and to our profession, to our work, and get that nourishment there at the conference, and bring it back so that you can be an even bigger, brighter, bolder lawyer and Pinay Powerhouse in your day to day in your community.
Yeah. I think it just occurred to me that like could it be compared to like a sorority in a law school? Is that what it's like? But you're like taking it out of law school and making it just for a space for Filipino women who want to be in the legal industry or are in the legal industry.
Yeah, when I hear the word sorority, I used to be in it. I was in a sorority in college, so I sometimes there's this negative connotation where it
Mm.
feels like being exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
But Pinay Powerhouse strives to be an inclusive community, and so we're very welcoming. Um, but I guess you could equate it to something like a sorority in the sense that it very much has the spirit of sisterhood and Panaism, but at the same time, we know that like we're not we're not there just for ourselves. When we're there in that room, we're there for other people that look like us, and we're there for our families, and we're there for whatever the communities and causes that we care about. Like we bring that part of ourselves to the conference. That's a big part of the conference. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. KJ, I want to hear from you. Like, since
Mhm.
this group doesn't just include Filipino lawyers, not people who are
Mhm.
already in the profession, but future attorneys as well. So, can you tell us about like what
Right.
challenges young Filipinas face in the road to becoming a lawyer?
Well, I think Christine just touched upon it a little bit earlier. It's the lack of being able to see a lot of people that look like us. So, with that lack of being able to see people that look like us, it's hard to know what is possible. So, I think that's probably the hardest thing to wrap your mind around. As someone who is more of a minority in this type of field, is to know that, hey, your dream, no matter how old you are and no matter what background you come from, you can embark on it. There's other people who've done it just like you. We're just fewer and further between, but we are there, and so that's why Pinay Powerhouse is such an important organization, because it includes people who want to do that. That way they can connect with someone else who's already there and be guided, and to know that, if you work hard and you stick the course and you be consistent with your endeavor, it is definitely possible. And you have other people here to help you along the way and that can share the same struggles that you've been through. And you don't really have to explain it because we just have that common thought.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I can
mhm,
imagine how like significant that must be for young Filipinas who do want to go into the industry to see women like yourselves
right,
who have gotten into that that industry and are making it through their careers, right? So I can imagine that it even just the optics, just seeing somebody that looks like you can make a
right.
big impact on people. So I know you
Totally.
guys, yes, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, it's just that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Okay, so
Hmm.
you guys did mention this that you guys are a minority in different ways. That you're women and you're Pinay in the United States. So there is a need to come together. But I would like to hear more about the challenges that come with being a minority in the American legal industry. So, would you say that your gender and race pose challenges in advancing your careers? Like, have your members experienced being belittled or compared with their white male counterparts? Maybe KJ, you can
You
go
want to take
first.
this? Oh, okay. Well, okay. I would say in general, yes. Race and gender do make a difference. The legal system, the education system as a whole was not set up for females and especially females of color. So this was like how Christine set up was for white males, everything all the way through the bar exam. So it wasn't really set up for us. So to break into that is going to be challenging in and of itself. I think a lot of people face, you know, I think Christine could probably speak on it later, probably specific examples of being, I remember I work at the Supreme Court and people just assume that I'm a tour guide there or not a lawyer just because of the way that I look, you know. But for me specifically at my job, doing what I do, I'm fortunate that both of my bosses are Filipina attorneys as well. So, you know, we help each other a lot, and it's easy for me to speak to them about anything that's going on because they completely understand me. So I've been fortunate to be in that position, but that's very, very rare to find. So especially on the mainland, you know, being from Hawaii, maybe it would be a little bit easier if I did work in Hawaii, but I don't. So working in Washington, it's a lot different in that way. Yeah. What
Well,
about you, Christine? I think you have a lot of good
yeah.
examples, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, through and through. You know, Pinay Powerhouse, our very first conference, the very first panel that we did was titled "Confronting Race and Gender Bias as Pinays at the Top of Their Game." And we had a very diverse set of Pinays, from judges to Pinays with their own practice to one of my mentors, a Pinay who started off as a nurse and then she became an assistant dean at a law school and does really amazing work for the state, building the pipeline for folks of color to pursue legal pathways. So it's a very real topic, and so much so that we were hitting it again at this year's upcoming conference, where we're doing a panel similarly focused on talking to Pinays that are leaders navigating their fields that are historically dominated by white males. And they're going to be talking about their work on the journey, but they're also going to be talking about finding joy and purpose along the way. So a little bit lighter. At the end of the day, I think, you know, what is it? This is our 7th conference. So our first conference and our 7th conference have very similar topics because it's just something that's so real and so alive for us on a day-to-day basis. I mean, at some points, I never forget. Like when I walk into the courtroom, when I walk into the office, I know I'm an Asian female lawyer. I know that I'm a Pinay lawyer. I know that when people see me, sometimes they don't see me. You know, one specific example was when I was a public defender, and I towards the end of my career as a public defender, I don't know if I'll go back, but I specifically recall sending emails to my white boss, telling him that I wanted more challenging assignments, that I was ready for a serious caseload, attempt homicides, and I wanted the next one. And in my office, it was because I worked as an alternate defender, the frequency of these types of serious cases were not as frequent. It was a lower frequency of being able to get those. So I was, really eager to get the next one or something, fairly serious, and stated it verbally and stated it in an email. And then the next one that came, I got passed over and someone else got it. And I was so furious because it didn't make sense to me, because I believed that I had just as much experience, if not more. I had been in the office longer, I had carried a felony caseload longer, and I had verbalized that I wanted this in terms of my career advancement. And when I confronted my boss about it, he just looked at me like, oh, you're right. Like, he completely forgot about me, basically. I mean, he didn't say that, but that's essentially what he indirectly said. And he apologized, and I did get the next homicide assignment. But it was just, wow. Like, I'm that invisible to you, like even verbally expressing myself. I think a lot of times we're not seen, we're undervalued, we're not appreciated. I mean, I can give even more examples, but it's like, even when you are doing the work, if you're not super loud or something, or you don't have like that style or that aggressiveness, is traditionally associated with being, more masculine. It's unbelievable that, like, after expressing, that this is what I wanted, I still got overlooked.
Just curious about that specific instance. So, like, after you confronted, like, did things change after that, or did you still have to constantly remind your boss that, hey, I want to take on more challenging cases?
Well, he did give me the next homicide assignment, and I don't really think things changed in terms of feeling valued. I still felt undervalued. I still felt like there was a lot of different types of implicit biases and microaggressions going on for the women of color in our office. I mean, even after that incident, I remember we did this thing. We do it on a weekly basis, or I think at that time it was actually during the pandemic. And I recall we were paneling. And what that is basically like the attorneys in the office meet, and we were on screen at the time, and we talk about our cases. Like, what are our challenges? What are our struggles? Do you have any ideas with this specific motion? Should I write a motion in this case? How should I do my opening? How should I do my closing? Like, what legal strategies? And I remember coming up with a solution for someone and an idea. And all the women were like, okay, yeah. And then there were 3 white males on that call, and the rest of us were women. And right after, maybe like two ideas later, a white male said the same idea that I had in terms of a solution. And then the other white male chimed in and said, that's a great idea. So, those types of things were just happening constantly. And it was really frustrating. It's one of the reasons I ended up leaving that office, because I did not feel valued or appreciated. And in fact, about half of us, those women, have left. And those, I believe those males are still there. I know, my former supervisor was there, so is still there. So, it's a normal everyday thing, and having to navigate it is very tough. But I've pointed that out, in other ways. But at some point, like, how much pushing can you get? Can you do? At some point, you kind of have to take a stand, and sometimes that means moving on.
Do you have a similar experience, KJ? Like, have you ever like not been given an opportunity that you just found out later went to a white man or something?
I'm fortunate enough to not have experienced it yet, but I'm more fresh out of law school. I just graduated in 2022.
I
So
see.
it hasn't happened thus far. And I've been very lucky with who I've been working for, who is a Filipino woman, yeah,
Yeah,
attorney.
yeah.
So yeah, so for me, my circumstance is different, but I want to say 99% of the time, that is not the case. Every single person I know, like what Christine is describing, is 100% commonplace. I feel like I might be one of the only people who doesn't have that type of story.
I see.
So, and my story is also different because, I am from Hawaii where minorities are the majorities and a lot of us are part Filipino,
Yeah.
so it would be a little bit different even if I were to, practice here. But unfortunately, that is a system that is set up and that happens all the time. In fact, probably I experienced that during class. So not in a work setting, but I'm sure I experienced it many times during class to the point where maybe it's out of my memory that I've had to turn a blind eye to it because you have to just keep going.
Yeah.
You voice it like Christine said, and you respectful about it, but sometimes you have to go in another direction.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay. I'm curious now about if Pinay Powerhouse has any causes that are close to your hearts. So anyone can answer this. Are there certain causes that are close to your group's advocacies, and what are they? Maybe Christine? Yeah.
So, an amazing component, and it's an integral component at every Pinay Powerhouse, is that we always focus on at least one social justice issue. And we usually feature some kind of panel, and sometimes our circles do as well. Because being a Pinay is such a, yes, we share the same blood in the sense that we're all ancestry, we're Filipino, but we're very diverse, and the issues are very, we're also very multifaceted. So the issues and causes that we care about, there's a great range, and so we've done different topics every year. But one big issue that is common theme is a social justice issue, and during 2020, 2021, after George Floyd was murdered, we put together a solidarity statement, and we made a commitment that through our programming we would put together. We would address issues of anti-Blackness, which is very common in the Filipino community, and colorism. I remember at the conference that I met Kelsey at KJ in Seattle, we did a specific circle programming where we talked about being anti-racist, and we talked about colorism and anti-Blackness as Pinays, and in our families and in the institutions that we all are a part of, and ways that we can combat it. And so that is an issue that is very close, near and dear to my heart. Another, the virtual conference that we did during the pandemic was all social justice. Like the entire conference was social justice, and we did a crimmigration panel, and that was really interesting. It was looking at the intersection of criminal law and immigration, and the school to prison to deportation pipeline. I thought that was really interesting, and we tend to do a lot of different. One year we did a focus on labor trafficking in the Filipino community at the national level. And a lot of people know about sex trafficking, but labor trafficking is actually more common. in the U.S. And so we did a special program on that. We do so many really cool programs, and we let the affiliates, because every year the conference travels. So this year it's in San Diego. Last year it was in New York. We let the host leaders of that region, pick the topics based on the few requirements that we have. Is please focus on a social justice issue, and then do another issue that you want to do. But we let the locality determine what the pressing issue or the important issue is that they want to talk about or focus on each year. And there's always a handful.
Yeah, I'm curious about, have you guys, or at least some of you, have you guys discussed having Filipinos as clients in immigration issues? Because I do understand that there are lots of undocumented Filipino immigrants in the United States. So do you guys have members that handle those types of cases, and do you guys also process those types of cases together?
We have a lot of immigration lawyers in the Pinay Powerhouse community. We have had topics focused on immigration. I know when we had our third conference was in Hawaii, in Honolulu. I remember we had an immigration lawyer talk about the different struggles and commonplace themes that occur in those types of cases. A lot of our community members are part of local Filipino lawyer associations, and they do clinics on the ground level, providing free advice and consultation to oftentimes Filipinos that are going through the immigration process, and so we do that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you, KJ? I'm wondering if you have like your own personal advocacies that you're also bringing into the collective that you're also processing with them.
Yes, so my background is actually in entrepreneurship. That's actually what prompted a lot of me going back to law school, is because I'm a serial entrepreneur. So that is primarily what my focus is. I love helping with startups, especially small business. But I also, a lot of what I went to school for too is in intellectual property, so a lot to do with trademarks and copyrights, and that intersects with sports and entertainment law. So those are I was part of those associations while I was in law school, and that's where I thought I was headed. However, what I'm doing right now is actually at the intersection of access to justice and technology law. So I do a lot of stuff to do with ADA compliance with technology, because as you've seen after, COVID, so many things are now technology reliant. So we want to make sure that everyone has access to the information that they need. That's where the term justice for all comes from. So that's more so what my focus is right now. So I don't have a lot of background when it comes to immigration and that sort of things, but we do have a lot of people, as Christine said, in our community that is their primary focus, and they are so good at it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that we have them. And it's just nice that there is an array like that. And that's the really great part of being a part of this collective and this community with Pinay Powerhouse is everybody brings something different to the table. And that's one of the coolest things about having your JD. So when I do a lot of mentoring too for anybody 18 and over, and they're looking to go to law school. And my pitch is that, if you did go to like medical school or something, if you chose to be a heart surgeon today, you couldn't be a pediatrician tomorrow. But attorneys, you could be, a real estate lawyer today or an immigration lawyer tomorrow. Like essentially you could segue into those things. It's one of the best degrees that you can move laterally in order to move vertically. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's one of the coolest things is you can tap into anything and just really try to learn it and see what you gravitate to. Because I think for some people it does change with time.
Yeah. I think it really just goes to show that like the group really is inclusive because like both of you have different answers, and I think that's a good thing, to welcome different types of lawyers to the table, whether you're in the grim and determined stuff or you're in business and law and even entertainment and sports. I think that's amazing. So going back to the identity of the group, because I could imagine that other female cultural or ethnic minorities in the United States would have similar groups. Like I imagine there's like a Latina powerhouse counterpart somewhere there. But I'm wondering, maybe Christine, you could answer this. Like, what makes your group uniquely Filipino, and how do you bring everybody together from the different states?
Wow, that is such a big question. But I feel like number one is Pinay Powerhouse. It's self-identified Pinays. And so if you identify as a Pinay in law in some form, like you are a part of Pinay Powerhouse. And we do strive to be, as you said, inclusive. And, this year in particular is a really special year because we are actually going to do a roundtable, and we've never done a roundtable on queerness and culture. And so we are sitting in on a conversation, and it'll probably be a very intimate conversation about some of the struggles that our queer Pinays have to deal with as folks that are also lawyers or legal professionals, and I think what makes us uniquely Filipino is that we all recognize that we're uniquely Filipino, and I think what makes us uniquely Pinay is that there's a certain strength and reverence in our blood. Bar's song, Island Woman Rise, Walang Makakatigil, Brown Woman Rise. There is a strength and a reverence that is uniquely Pinay. And then you add that, to being a lawyer in a white dominated space and field that, it's not easy. It's not easy. And so when you come into this space, like you already feel accepted. You already feel like there's a place for me. There are so many women that have come up to me after a conference or at some point, and they're just like, I did not know this is what I needed. Even when I talked to KJ after our conference in Seattle, her and another board member of Pinay Powerhouse came up to me and were like, we're soul sisters. We found each other through Pinay Powerhouse. Like, thank you so much, Christine. Because it's real. So I think it's a self-identification process, It makes once you get there, if you put yourself out there and you make the trip or the trek, if it's not local to you because you live in Hawaii and it's in New York or something, like you won't regret it and you'll want to come back.
Totally.
That's the simplest way to say it. And then I can't remember the second part of your question.
I was wondering how you bring everybody together. Is it by just because the conference travels, so that's where you get new people, or how does it work when you get new members?
Yeah, I think some people find us through Instagram, or we have a Facebook group as well, and we have a website. But, we are made up of a bunch of different affiliates. When we started through the Filipino Bar Association of Northern California, but we have a national Filipino American Lawyers Association. It is newer than the Filipino Bar Association of Northern California. I think Filipino Bar Association, we're like in our 40-something year, whereas and FALA, I don't know, we're under 10 years old. But because NFALA is the umbrella organization of all of the different local affiliates, which are located all over the United States, local Filipino bar associations, when NFALA kind of started. I think it was with their second president, who was third president, who was from the Bay Area, one of the presidents I worked under in the Filipino Bar Association. I told him, I wanted to get us together, and so it's just all ad hoc. But basically, we have representatives from all of these different local bar organizations, and we meet once a month as a collective virtually, and we use this space as a soundboard for each of the conferences, and then each of the affiliates, wherever it's located, they will take on the conference itself. So it never, it hasn't gone back to San Francisco. It probably will one day, hopefully, but it also depends on who the leadership is. A lot of it is us just trying to identify who wants to take on the conference. And it's usually not that hard because they're so impactful that people don't want the conference to die. We've become a national movement. I mean, we're now a C3 organization. So we're a nonprofit, educational charity organization, and we raise scholarship funds for folks to come to these conferences. So we've become a nonprofit. So that's also going to help us with longevity and kind of having a home base. But yeah, every conference is hosted by a different affiliate across the nation.
To just touch on that really quickly, I think that the strategy of having different affiliates and then going across the U.S. has been really smart because everyone is so interconnected. Let's say, for example, how Christine and I first met at the first Pinay Powerhouse conference I went to in 2022, and it was based in Seattle. I think they contacted, the powerhouses there in that city, and from there, everyone kind of contacts each other. Oh, you should come to this conference. Oh, you definitely should come. So I was invited because my boss was on the panel. She's also was a council member at that time. So she was on the panel having to do with Pinays in politics. And so from that, I was introduced to the conference, and it was a thing I didn't realize I needed because I came to this conference and I was automatically accepted and automatically had these bonds and may have even known each other through different people as well. And then the thing that's very unrivaled, and this is what Christine really brings to the table as the visionary, is that execution of everyone leaving empowered. You have this different sense of motivation because you're around each other and we're just uplifting each other, and that carries you through to the next conference next year, so it's very amazing, and it's one of those things that can only be experienced.
Yeah.
So I think the word of mouth combined with the traveling aspect of the conference and the usefulness of social media, being able to tag people, being able to, just email someone, hey, did you hear about this? You better come. I think that's where the word of the spreading of this comes from. And I think it's been very effective. And I can't wait to see it, continue to grow in that way and have more people bonded. And just also going back to what you asked before, it's just another way of showing future Filipinas that it is possible because we're congregating from everywhere.
Yeah. So maybe just to wrap things up, I want to ask both of you what advice you would give to Filipino women who are looking to pursue law in the United States. Maybe you first, KJ.
Okay, I have a list. So one, start with you knowing that you can and you will do it. If this is your dream, you will do it. So the first thing you need to do is do your research. Know what it takes in order to come and make a timeline. That's probably going to be a 3 to 5 year game plan. That when you're going to take the LSAT, when you're going to apply, the next 3 years of law school, and what you plan to do after that. Have a purpose, And then after you do your research, make your game plan, then you should try to find a mentor, somebody that will guide you. And the crazy thing, the misconception about lawyers is that that we might not be that helpful or something, but lawyers are the most give back community type of people. We love giving back and bringing people along the way. And if you don't know where to start with us. You know, connect with us, be engaged with what we're doing. And I mean, you can call me and Christine, and we will be there and show you a good game plan to get there. And then it ends with your mentality of not being deterred. So, you know, just no matter what might come your way, and you might think, oh, I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. I don't know how I'm going to get the time. How am I going to go back to school if I have kids? All these type of things. There's someone else who's done it before, so you can do it too. So would be my takeaways.
Yeah. How about you, Christine?
I love that. I would just piggyback off of Kelsey, KJ, and say, come to a Pinay Powerhouse conference. That is my advice. If you want to be a lawyer, a Pinay lawyer, or you're interested in, law, we have a lot of non-lawyers that actually come. Non-lawyer Pinays that come. We've had coaches, we've had real estate agents, and we've had legal professionals like paralegals come. They're coming again. We are for anyone that identifies and recognizes that we do center Pinays in law, but come to our conference. We have a conference coming up next week in San Diego, March 22nd to 24th. And then if you can't come, stay engaged. We have virtual programming. We have circles. Follow us on IG. KJ is right. We will connect you. We're connectors. We're collaborators to someone in your area, or someone nearby. If you're like in one of those middle of the U.S. states. One dream I have is bringing it to the Philippines. I think that would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Yes.
You're always welcome to come here.
But yeah, stay engaged and follow us, I would say. And then at the end of the day, like my advice, like as a person is be you, be you. You have the capacity. You have the power. You can do it. You can do anything you desire, anything, and that's who we are as Pinays. We get down and we do it. We do what it takes. So you might as well do it being you, and you'll get there. You'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you so much, Christine and KJ, for your time.
Thank you.
Salamat, ingat.
Again, you're tuned into At Home sa Abroad on Rappler. But the conversation doesn't have to end here. If you're interested to talk more about the lives of migrant Filipinos, you can join the Overseas Filipinos chat on the Rappler Communities app. You can download the app by scanning the QR codes on the screen. I'm Michelle Abad. Thank you for listening.